Hello everyone, this is Major Green, also known as Nitpicking Nerd, and today I want to talk about the character of Rey, especially her parentage. And that's one of the things that people were most disappointed by in episode 8, that it never actually revealed anything about anything special, at least about her parents. It just said that her parents were nobodies, that she's just a random person basically. So a lot of people were kind of disappointed by that. And I think the movies are to blame for this because they kind of teased that with it too long. They had that vision scene in the previous movie about her parents, that she wants to know who her parents are, and in this movie again we have a scene of her having visions and not getting any answers. So the movie kept teasing us with this question. So if they didn't tease us so much, then it would have been perfectly okay. I would have been fine with that explanation. She doesn't have to be related to anyone we know. I mean, every time they make someone related, it kind of makes the whole galaxy seem smaller, so that's kind of not a good thing. So they just happen to run into each other all the time, all the same relatives, like Luke and Leia in the original trilogy. And so in some ways it would have been better if no one was related to anyone. It would have made more sense in such a big galaxy. So in some ways I liked the answer. I don't like the fact that they set up a false mystery and then gave a cop-out. And then the surprise of this movie was that there is no surprise. Everybody kept expecting to be some kind of a big shock reveal. Maybe she's the granddaughter of Palpatine. Maybe she's the granddaughter of Obi-Wan. Maybe she was created by Snoke. Like all those theories, all of them very interesting. But in the end of the day, they surprised us by having the answer be that there is no answer. There is no shocking surprise, and that's by itself is surprising. So I don't like that. Like I would have been fine with that if they never set up the mystery. If they keep teasing us with some kind of interesting answer and then never give an answer, then that's annoying. And what is the whole point of that vision scene, that whole scene of her going into the cave? We already had a scene like that in the previous movie. We saw a scene of her having visions about her parents in the previous movie. Did we really need to have this again? Another vision which doesn't actually tell us anything, that was just annoying. So what's the whole point of that? In the original trilogy we had the scene with Luke having visions, which actually did have some meaning later. It actually foreshadowed something about Darth Vader later, because he saw his own face in Darth Vader, so it foreshadowed him being his father. It also foreshadowed the possibility that he might become the next Vader if he's not careful. So that scene did have a lot of meaning in the original trilogy. And yet here we have a scene like that, but all of that was meaningless. All of that was completely pointless. That could have been easily cut out of the movie, and the movie would have been better off without it. Now maybe they will do an actual twist in the next episode. Maybe they will reveal that she's not a nobody. Maybe they will reveal that she is related to someone, or maybe that she's another chosen one, that she's another child of the Force, something like that. I guess that could work if done properly. Now what I do like in episode 8, and it fits with what Luke was trying to teach her, and also what we saw with those kids in the end and all of that, what this movie showed us, that basically anyone can be a Jedi. You don't have to come from a special bloodline, you don't have to come from royalty. So I do kind of like that message. Also it kind of corrects what George Lucas did in the prequels, in which he introduced the midichlorians, which showed us that your potential in the Force is dependent on how many midichlorians you have in your blood. And so that kind of ruined the Force, as it was in the original trilogy, in which you kind of assumed that the Force itself is picking people to connect with. So it's as if some kind of divine influence, and also maybe it's dependent on how hard you work on yourself, how hard you train, how good of a person you are, stuff like that. So it was not determined by blood, even though the problem was that because Luke was the son of Darth Vader, and maybe that's why he was Force sensitive. So I guess Lucas had no choice but to explain that somehow by saying that it is related to the bloodline in some way. So I guess he had his hands tied by what he did in the original trilogy. But the new movies, I think I said that a lot, that they kind of heard the criticism that people had of the prequels, and they are now trying to correct it in a lot of things, even the visual style, the fact that they have actual sets, that they film the movies outdoor, they film them in mud, they film them in real environments, because one of the criticisms of the prequels was that it was all in CGI environments. It's apparent to me that they really listen to the criticism of the prequels and they're trying to correct it, so I kind of like what they're trying to do. So they say that Rey is a nobody, all those kids are nobodies, and yet the Force still chooses them, they can still become Jedi. So in some ways I like that, in some ways it works. However, the problem is that these movies were always about the Skywalker family, kind of, and so you're now basically eliminated all the Skywalkers. So Luke is dead, Leia will probably be dead in the next movie, and Kylo basically is the only Skywalker and he's evil. So if the story will end with him dying, then basically the legacy of the Skywalker family will be mostly evil one. Like you had Darth Vader, and now you have Kylo, and they were all bad guys, and Luke was kind of a loser, and Leia also, except flying in space one time, she never actually did anything with the Force. So the legacy of the Skywalker family would be kind of ruined if they don't make Rey a Skywalker later. And so the Skywalker name will kind of be a bad name historically. It will be a bad memory. Yeah, I wish there would have been another Skywalker in the story maybe. So maybe they can still do that. Maybe they can still reveal later that Rey was in fact the daughter of Luke that he never knew about. Maybe he can show up as a Force ghost and tell her this. He can tell her that he didn't know about this when they met. He only discovered it when he became one with the Force. Now one thing they can still do, which would be kind of neat, is if they say that Rey is another chosen one, that the Force actually created her just like Anakin Skywalker, and maybe even that she's kind of a reincarnation of Anakin Skywalker. Maybe the spirit, the ghost of Anakin Skywalker returned to a physical body again, this time in her body. So that might be kind of neat. It would also basically make her a Skywalker again, and it would also explain those similarities she had with Anakin. Remember in episode 7 we saw her life on Jakku, and she was very similar to Anakin. Like she knew how to fix things, she knew how to fix everything, just like Anakin did when he was on Tatooine. And so a lot of similarities like that. Also remember that scene in which she found the lightsaber of Anakin, and when she touched it, she saw all those kinds of visions and hearing Darth Vader. And so maybe she actually, because it used to be her lightsaber when she was Anakin Skywalker, maybe that's what triggered her memories of that lifetime, and maybe that would also explain how come she suddenly knows how to use the Force. Maybe she kind of got some of those memories back, kind of established connection with the Force, and so that would justify a lot. Also, being the chosen one, it would explain why she's so powerful with the Force, and it would also explain that vision she had in this movie, in the episode 8. In the cave vision, we saw like an endless row of rays, like she's an endless being, and when she asked to see her parents, she saw herself. So maybe the chosen one is someone who keeps coming back into a physical body to achieve balance, or maybe it's something the Force is doing. So that would explain that vision when you saw an endless amount of rays. And also all of this would explain how come we don't see Anakin's ghost talking with Kylo Ren. We saw that Kylo Ren talks to Darth Vader's helmet, and I think that was probably Snoke manipulating him, making him think he's talking to Darth Vader. And we always wondered how come the spirit of Anakin doesn't show up to tell him the truth, to tell him not to join the dark side. So where did the spirit of Anakin disappear to? But if he was born again in Rey, it would explain how come his spirit is not available right now. So I think this will tie everything quite well. It would explain a lot of things. Why she's so powerful, why she's so quick to know everything, she's so quick to know how to fight, to use the Force so quickly, faster than anyone else without any training. If she's a reincarnation of Anakin, it would kind of make sense. So this would actually explain a lot of things. So I kind of like this theory. Another theory I have, which I doubt they would ever do, it's kind of a more of a science fiction theory, is that maybe she's kind of a clone, she's kind of a genetic experiment. Maybe someone was deliberately trying to recreate Anakin Skywalker by cloning him, maybe by taking his DNA maybe from Luke and Leia and combining it and trying to recreate Anakin Skywalker, and it wasn't an exact copy. That's why she's a female and not a male, but still she's the closest thing to Anakin. I would kind of enjoy that, even though I doubt they would do that, especially since, as I said, they are trying to avoid anything from the prequels. So cloning is something that was done in the prequels and people didn't like that, even though I personally like that idea, by the way. I liked the idea of a clone army, and maybe they can just leave it kind of ambiguous, and maybe we can fill that in with theories, with fan theories. Maybe it's better if they never mention that again, then we can simply imagine these theories ourselves, and it would probably be better than anything they will do in the actual movies. They will only mess it up in the movies. I kind of like to think that she is the reincarnation of Anakin, either deliberate scientific experiment by someone, or simply by the Force itself doing that. The Force itself kind of taking the spirit of Anakin and again sending him back kind of to redeem himself, maybe, to this time be a hero, to do what the Chosen One was supposed to do, to bring balance and destroy the evil side and all of that. So that's my personal favorite theory. That's what I would do. So let me know what you think and we can discuss it in the comments, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.